The condemned man didn't flinch as the steel door clanged open. He sat on the edge of his bunk, palms flat, eyes hollow. No cuffs, no shackles. Just time, what little he had left, and the slow, padded footsteps of the K-9 trotting in beside the warden. No one spoke, not the guards lining the hall, not the witnesses behind the glass. The dog stopped just short of the inmate's boots, tilted its head, then, slowly, achingly, stepped forward and wrapped his body into the man's chest, whining. A sound broke from the prisoner, and then the dog did something no one expected. He looked at the warden and growled. The Greenstone Correctional Facility sat on a plateau outside Bracklow, a nowhere town an hour from anywhere that mattered. The place smelled like diesel, mold, and resignation. Only the K-9s moved like they had a purpose. Everyone else just shuffled from duty to duty, head down, voice low. Warden June Cadell stood in the observation booth, arms crossed over a brown suit jacket. She watched the cameras, but her focus was on cell block F. Inmate 3739, Marcus read, was scheduled to die in 5 days. That's not what unsettled her. It was the dog. His name was Kale, Belgian Malinois, 8 years on service. He was assigned to Red's block as part of a quiet psychological program. Let the condemned man feel the warmth of a living thing before the state snuffed him out. Strange kind of mercy. But Kale was doing things no other K-9 had done. He refused to leave Red's cell after the second day, slept beside him, brought him his food tray in his jaws, snarled at the guards who tried to move him. Not once. Every time. Cadell hadn't signed off on that level of proximity. Ma'am. Lieutenant Shea's voice crackled through the intercom. Red's asking for you. Says about the dog. She hesitated. The last time an inmate had something about the dog, it was a sharpened spoon jammed into the vent under the bunk, but something gnawed at her ribs. Bring him to interview 3, she said. The room was bare except for the table and 2 bolted-down chairs. Kale patted in first, tail low, eyes sweeping the corners. When Red entered, he dropped to sit beside the inmate like a practiced soldier. Red looked worse in his mugshot. Older, slower, skin clinging to sharp cheekbones. He didn't look like a killer anymore. That made him more dangerous. Somehow, Warden, he said, his voice gravel dragged across concrete. You said you had something to share? Yeah, he said. Then he scratched behind Kale's ear. He remembers me. Cadell frowned. The dog? He knows me. From before. That's not possible, she replied flatly. I trained dogs, Red said. Years before. Private contract work. The name Kale. His left ear's got a scar. You can see it if he tilts his head. That's from barbed wire on a site job in Kentucky. He wasn't even supposed to make it to adulthood. June stiffened. She'd read Kale's profile. Nothing in it about Kentucky. No private handler. His service file began at 18 months. Standard K-9 Academy. But Red wasn't blinking. He came from my kennel. I raised him. I named him. That night, June didn't sleep. She poured bourbon into a coffee mug and pulled the service files from records. She found what she wasn't supposed to. Kale's early training logs had been edited. Gaps. Redactions. Someone had erased his first 18 months. She called in a favor from an old friend in state archives. What she got back made her blood stop moving. A kennel license registered to Redline Tactical Canines. Owner, Marcus Red. And a matching puppy photo. The left ear torn. Daylight came through mist the next morning. Bracklow's only trees leaned like tired men against the wire fences. Kale refused to report to rotation. He barked, growled, and shoved his head against Red's cell door. Warden Cadell arrived in person. She waved the guards off. No weapons drawn. No tasers. Red stood behind the glass. Kale pressed his body to the bars like a child, pleading not to leave his father. What are you not telling me? June asked. You executed the wrong man, Red said. She stared at him. I trained Kale for reconnaissance and perimeter sweeps, he said. But he was with me when it happened. The murder you say I did, he was there. He wouldn't have let it happen. He would have alerted. He never barked. Red, the evidence was fabricated, he snapped. By the man who wanted Cale. That's why they erased the dog's history. June looked at the canine. Cale stared back, ears up, breath steady, waiting. He won't leave because he knows I'm innocent. It was 48 hours to execution. The state wouldn't grant a stay on the word of a man and a mutt. But June wasn't the kind of woman who ignored instinct. She dug deeper. Old files. Witnesses that had vanished. A judge who'd recused himself halfway through trial. Then there was a detective who arrested Red. Daniel Hoyt. Dead. Suicide. Shotgun in the mouth. For years ago. But his partner, Carla Vance, was still alive. Off-grid. Somewhere in Driftwood Hollow. June got in the car. Driftwood Hollow was 2 hours west, mostly gravel and forgotten trailers. She found Vance living in a single wide under a half-dead maple. The woman was thinner than her records, hair dyed black, eyes like storm clouds. "I'm not talking about the Red case," she said to the screen door. "He says he didn't do it," June replied. "He would say that. He's a killer. The dog doesn't think so." Carla Vance's lips pressed in. Then she opened the door. "You got a smoke?" They sat on the steps. June lit 2 cigarettes. Carla didn't speak until halfway through hers. "I never saw the body," she said. "Hoyt told me to wait in the car. Said he got a tip. You let him go in alone?" Hoyt was persuasive. "Not clean, either." June waited. Carla looked away. Red had something Hoyt wanted. I don't know what it was. But when he came out, he had Cale with him. No warrant. No collar. Just took him. Said the guy confessed. Never saw paperwork. June's stomach turned. "What do you think happened?" Carla stood, flicked a cigarette into the dirt. "I think Hoyt killed someone. And I think Cale saw it. Back at Greenstone, Cale was whining in his sleep, dreaming. Red stroked his fur gently. "It's okay," he whispered. "You didn't know." But the dog twitched again, then bolted upright, facing the cell door. Footsteps. Cadell appeared, face unreadable. "We have a problem," she said. Behind her, the state rep was arriving. No delays. No appeals. No last-minute review. Execution was set for 6 p.m. 44 hours. The execution room hadn't changed in 20 years. Pale tiles. Fluorescent hum. The long glass partition separating witnesses from the condemned. There was no blood, no drama. Just chemicals and silence. Warden June Cadell stood in that silence, watching technicians run checks on straps and syringes. This room wasn't meant to ask questions. It existed to answer them with finality. But now she had questions. And the man in cell F might be the wrong answer. Cale had stopped eating. Refused commands. When guards tried to leash him, he pressed into the cell bars until his chest bruised. Red barely spoke. Just sat there, palm on Cale's back. The two of them froze in some old grief the rest of the world had forgotten. June had 39 hours left. She returned to her office, door locked, blinds drawn. Her laptop hummed to life with a VPN tunneling into the National Canine Registry. She pulled Cale's full serial, K93-019845, and began cross-referencing every file, every facility, every trainer. Then she found it, an internal memo dated 2017, 6 months before Cale's official deployment. Handler assignment, K93-019845. Recommend removing reference to original trainer Red, M, due to pending criminal investigation. Animal shows high emotional imprinting. May compromise future operations. It was signed by Lieutenant Daniel Hoyt. June stared at the screen. Her heart kicked once, hard, like it was trying to escape her chest. She picked up the phone. Eli Morrow had worked with the AG's office on animal behavioral testimony. He was semi-retired now, living out in Carroll Ridge with more goats than people. "June Cadell," he said over the line, voice gravel-thick and amused. "Haven't heard that name since you reamed my ass over K9 budget cuts." "I need a behavioral profile," she said. "Off the record." "You paying in favors or bourbon?" "Both." He laughed. "Shoot." Cale was brought to a secure testing area. A cinder block room with one mirror window and 3 scent samples hidden behind sliding panels. Eli watched from behind glass, arms folded. First, the scent of his current handler. Second, a neutral sample. Third, an unmarked cloth bag from a police evidence locker. Hoyt's locker, specifically. Cale sniffed the first sample and whined. Ignored the second. Then he reached the third and backed away, head lowered, whimpering. June didn't speak. Eli's eyes narrowed. "That's fear," he said quietly. "But not just fear. That dog remembers something." Meanwhile, Red sat across from Chaplain Burke. Final visits were protocol. Confession. Closure. Most prisoners broke by the second session. But Red wasn't breaking. "I'm not scared of dying," he said. "Not anymore." Burke, an old man with kind eyes and a worn Bible, nodded. "You believe in forgiveness?" "I believe in regret," Red said, "but not for what they say I did." Cale lay at his feet. "You know," Red added, "I used to think he was just a dog. Just muscle and instinct. But they're more than that. They remember what they're not supposed to. They carry it." He paused. "I think Cale remembers what really happened that night. That night, June pulled the prison security logs from 8 years ago. The night of the murder. The victim had been a whistleblower, Talia Varnett, a freelance journalist. Her name wasn't even in the official files on Red's case. She had written a piece on Redline Tactical Canines, alleging illegal private sales of unlicensed K9s to foreign buyers. A week later, she was dead. Red arrested for her murder. Hoyt got promoted. And the dog went missing from the kennel records until it showed up at State Academy under a scrubbed identity. Jesus Christ, June thought. She drove to Talia Varnett's mother's house at dawn. A pale blue trailer with a windshield of rusted spoons. Mrs. Varnett opened the door in slippers. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. Marcus read. June said gently, "Do you believe he killed your daughter?" The woman's jaw clenched, then loosened. "I did, for a long time. But that's what they wanted me to believe." They? The men who came afterward. Clean suits. Asked questions about her sources. Said I shouldn't talk to press. Did she keep a journal? She did. The journal was wrapped in a towel, buried in a freezer box beneath bags of soup bones. June read it cover to cover in her car. Talia had discovered a pipeline. U.S.-trained K9s funneled to private buyers overseas. Contracts signed under ghost names. She suspected Hoyt, even listed his badge number. The last entry was a name, Cale, followed by a scrawled note. If they take the dog, they take the witness. June slammed the journal shut. It was 15 hours to execution. She called the governor, got his secretary, called again, then again. At hour 12, her call was declined. At midnight, she returned to the prison. Her breath fogged the air. The building loomed like a mausoleum. She stopped at cell F. Cale looked up, eyes bloodshot. Red didn't move. "I tried," June said. "They won't stop it." Red didn't react. She unlocked the cell door. "Come with me." They walked down Block F in silence, past the chapel, past the infirmary, to the staff exit. "I'm breaking 2 laws just standing here," she said. "If you run, I won't stop you." "I'm not running," Red said quietly. "Then what the hell are we doing?" He looked down at Cale. "I'm going to show you something." They crossed the south field under moonlight, through the outer gate, into the woods behind the old utility building. Red stopped at a patch of dirt, untouched by snow. He knelt. Cale sniffed the ground, then began to dig. 10 minutes later, a corner of metal appeared. A lockbox. Inside, a flash drive wrapped in plastic. Old, brittle. Red held it out. "Backup files," he said. "Talia gave them to me the day before she died. Told me to keep them hidden. I was going to take them to someone. Then Hoyt showed up." "Why didn't you tell the court?" "I tried. My lawyer vanished. The evidence was lost. Cale was taken. Everything disappeared." By 3 a.m., June had watched the files. Documents, training videos, wire transfers, even a blurry shot of Hoyt handing Cale to an unmarked van, days before Red was arrested. She called her contact at the AG's office. This time he answered 6 hours to execution. Governor's office issued an emergency injunction. Case reopened. By 7 a.m., Red stood in the yard, breathing hard. June handed him a coffee. Cale sat between them, alert and quiet. "You just stopped your own execution," she said. Red smiled, faint and bitter. "No, he did." But not everyone was glad. In a black SUV parked outside Bracklow, a man with military tattoos and a disposable phone whispered into a burner line. She found the dog. Pause. "Yes, sir. I'll handle it." He shut the phone and started the engine. The press never came to Greenstone. Too far. Too ugly. Too many ghosts in the walls. But by noon, the gates were swarming. Local news vans lined the chain link like vultures. Cameras angled towards cell block F. Word had leaked. A death row inmate spared in the 11th hour. AK-9 at the center of it. But the real story, the part that mattered, hadn't surfaced. Not yet. And it was still moving, just beneath the surface, like something breathing in the dark. Warden June Cadell stood in her office, blinds shut, eyes locked on the grainy security feed. Red sat in interview room 2, hands on the table. Calm, Cale beside him, eyes flicking toward the door every few seconds. She hadn't slept, not because of guilt, because of dread. Something in her gut said this wasn't over. Her phone buzzed. It was Carla Vance. "I saw the news," the ex-detective said. "You did it?" "I don't think so," June replied. "They're coming." It started with a power flicker at 1:37 p.m., just enough to make the fluorescents twitch, just enough to scramble the gate logs for 11 seconds. Then came the fire alarm. South corridor. Unverified. Guards moved. Doors opened. Radios crackled. In confusion, the black SUV slipped past exterior checkpoint. No plates. No ID. Just tinted glass and military silence. Red knew something was wrong the second the hallway emptied. He looked at Cale, who was already standing. Then came the scream. Somewhere down Block D, gunfire followed. 3 shots. Close. Suppressed. Then silence. "Warden," Red whispered. No one answered. June was already moving, pistol in hand, when the door to admin burst open. A man entered. Tactical gear. Unmarked vest. A handgun lowered aside. He didn't speak. June shot first. The bullet grazed his collarbone, but didn't stop him. He lunged. They hit the wall, crashed into the filing cabinet. He slammed her wrist against the corner. She dropped the gun. He raised his. Click. Empty. She drove her elbow into his jaw, grabbed her pistol off the floor, and this time didn't miss. She found Red 5 minutes later, uncuffed, Cale standing between him and the door, growling. "You were right," she said. "I know. They want the dog. They won't take him." Outside, another SUV pulled in. 4 men, faces hidden, no insignia, moving like they'd trained for this. Silent, swift, precise. June turned to Red. "There's a maintenance tunnel under the yard. Leads out past the old water tanks." "You trust me with your prison?" he asked. "I trust him," she said, nodding to Cale. Red looked down. The dog held his stare. "Ready?" he whispered. Cale barked once. Sharp, focused. Then they ran. The tunnel was wet, narrow, and darker than hell. Red ducked low, boots slipping on algae-covered concrete. Cale trotted beside him, ears perked, steps light. Behind them, the sounds of boots, many, echoing fast. "Come on," Red hissed. "Come on, come on." A flashlight beam flickered ahead. He froze. Cale didn't. The dog lunged. A grunt, then a scream. Red surged forward and found a man doubled over, gun on the ground. He kicked it away. Cale stood over the fallen attacker, blood on his shoulder. "You okay?" Red asked. Cale blinked slowly, then limped back toward the exit. By the time they hit the tree line beyond the ridge, June's emergency call had gone through. State troopers, 2 black and whites from Bracklow, and 1 unmarked helicopter overhead. Sirens split the horizon. The men in the SUV were gone. Ghosts, just like Hoyt had been. Later that night, Red sat on the back steps of a borrowed farmhouse. He wore borrowed clothes, drank black coffee. Cale lay across his boots, bandaged but breathing. June sat beside him. No official charges, she said. No names. Nothing on the security tapes. He nodded. They're going to pretend this never happened. They've been pretending for years. They sat in silence. Only the cricket spoke. You know, she said finally, you could go public. Not yet. Why? He reached down, ran a hand over Cale's ear. They came for him once. They'll come again. What do you want to do? Red looked up at the stars. For now, rest. Then, after that, I want to burn whatever's left of the place that took him from me. 2 weeks later, the governor's office quietly reopened multiple closed cases linked to Hoyt. No names were released, but a special inquiry began into canine procurement records. Red Line Tactical Canines went dark. Their website vanished. In Bracklow, a boy walking his dog stopped by the prison gates and pointed to the mural newly painted there. A Belgian Malinois, sharp eyes, scarred ear, and next to him, in bold white paint, some witnesses bark, others bite. Epilogue: the man who'd escaped in the SUV sat in a bar somewhere in Wyoming. Burner phone in one pocket, knife in the other. He stared at a photo on his cracked screen. A dog, eyes sharp. The last line in the dossier read, "Target remains active. Emotional imprint unbroken. Mission incomplete." And in a cabin deep in the hills, Cale lay beside Red on the porch, breathing steady. No commands now. No cages. Just the wind, the dark, and one man finally watching over the one who had never stopped watching him.